Good morning, Warriors! Back with another episode of Vigor Warriors 2 and the 1% Club. Thank you guys for all your comments. I figured I was on the move today, so I figured I'd do a video just to kind of catch up a little bit. We have lots of different topics. Thank you guys so much for your comments. Once again, great comments, and I'll have to mention these as I go through. But again, some great comments talking about different types of, like True Garner. Thank you so much, my friend, for a nice comment and video. I don't have my sheet with me, but I'm gonna have to kind of catch up a little bit, maybe on tomorrow or Monday, on all the great comments that we're getting. So we're at 690. We're getting close to 700 now too, which is wonderful. So thank you so much on subscriptions. It just does. It makes me feel good that we're getting this word out, and more people are starting to kind of catch on that what may appear to be what people think is really not what the reality is about lots of things, but including semen retention. And so I think the whole plan to try to demasculate men is not working. People are starting to realize this, and women really want you to be a strong male. They don't want to be a weak male. They want that dominant person. And many people want to complain and argue about it. Of course you don't want to get abused. So we're not talking about taking it to abusive level. We're talking about somebody who is a dominant person who wants to basically, protect, provide, those type of things. They have to be dominant. They have to be a strong male. And the only way you do that is to build habits like that. And unfortunately, we've had a lot of years of people over the last 20, 30 years of not building habits, been being taught the wrong type of habits, and those things kind of catch up, and all of a sudden they become adults, and they're getting into a lot of what I call beta mentality behaviors. So we had our viewer named somebody who always kind of comments, made a nice comment, and I'm gonna talk about this one a little bit for this episode. And this episode is called that you need to form good habits to eliminate rust, and when under semen retention. And there's a lot of truth in that comment that somebody made. And the thing is that when you look at it, obviously we're building habits all the time. And so, as I just talked about, you're either going to form habits that are going to be positive for you, or you're going to form habits that are going to be negative for you. And as we look at this, the key thing is to obviously get into the right mindset. We had a few people last night who commented and told me that, one and I don't remember the name, so I'll have to go back and look at it again. But one person was 40 years old and they have a whole new lease on life. As I said yesterday, King Uche's talking about not being a slave anymore. You're actually getting liberated, my friends. And I think I mentioned that in the description yesterday. You're actually being liberated away from what society wants us to become, and that's that weak male. And this is anybody who stands up to that, they call a toxic male, and that's so far from the truth that it destroys society. And so, of course, we're not talking about, my friends, we're not talking about abusing your nature and becoming a dictator or becoming somebody who just abuses people or takes advantage of people, men and women. We're not talking about that. We're talking about a person who has strong habits, confidence, a person who has who's a winning mentality, who basically takes the leadership, takes the ownership if things go wrong, and that person is someone who stands up and says, look, this is right, this is wrong, and I take complete ownership, and we'll do better, we'll work better, or we're doing great at this point in time. So those type of things are things that are very important when it comes to leadership as a male. And those habits are formed. So let's look at semen retention, for instance, and we look at the whole leadership of that. And so as you are leading your wife, girlfriend, whatever it might be, in a relationship, and I believe males should be leading that, and those are the types of things, because 99% of women want that. Now, there's always going to be people who talk about this, and in this day and age, you got lots of people who are upset with this male. They think it's a macho image, and it's really not. You're not talking about the same thing here. Macho image is more of a fake image. You're talking about a male who is really a strong male. And females sense this. When you're on retention, It just amazes me over and over again, and this is why I will never be willing to kind of let this go, because all the benefits continue to grow, and they're not, obviously I've seen so many of them over the last 200 and I'm sorry, 860 some days, so I'm not at the point where it surprises me all that much. But it's always kind of a double take and look at it, because you see such a different reaction. The reaction that people have towards you, especially females, in my case, at 60 some years old is amazing. I mean, I never had that when I was 20 years old. And I think a lot of it is because they realize you're a man on purpose. You realize you're a warrior. And whether or not they want to kind of, fight all this, and of course they're going to stand up and say, well, we don't want abuse. We're not talking about abuse. We're not talking about treating women or men poorly. We're talking about having a strong idea, a strong strength, inner strength that you have. And that's mentally and physically. And you can't do that unless you retain. And so we talk about this whole idea of habits. This is how you start. So somebody, you're exactly right in your comments. The idea is that you want to build a habit of being strong. Now, how do you do that? Well, if you had a father, especially a father, who had that, they could, obviously that's a role model for you. If you did not, or your father's not around, which some people don't have their fathers around, then you have to kind of look at ideas. And the Bible is probably the first place to look at this, but you can look at ideas of people who have that strength. And we're talking about real strength there. We're not talking about fake macho type of strength. You're talking about somebody who doesn't need to brag about themselves. They're not arrogant. They don't need to brag about how great they are all the time. They just know they're good. They know they can do things, and they just kind of step sometimes in the background if they have to, or they're the ones who really are the strong people, and they can laugh at themselves, and they can take leadership, and they take responsibility for things. Obviously, people have taken responsibility for families and workplace and all those type of things. You know that. And I think as someone mentioned to me, it's nice to kind of hear a mature approach. Well, and I appreciate that a great deal. Thank you. I don't know how mature I am with it. I just think that, when you look at overall picture, retention is a part of it. But as you learn the lessons from retention and you learn what God wants you to do, the bigger picture really is being a responsible man, being a responsible warrior, and providing and protecting and all those things that males should be doing. And once again, I think that the society is so backwards because of people want to do agendas and they're not happy with things. And have there been things done in the past by people? Of course, of course. You're not going to get away from people who just have the evil in them, and Satan's using them, with the evil. You're going to have a lot of that. I mean, that's out there. But to try to change the population and get people and males to be demasculized and females to become more masculine is not the answer at all, because males and females get frustrated, and you see this all the time. You see this with all these type of movements that we see with people trying to change roles and change genders. It never works. A lot of times they end up committing suicide, and because they can't deal with the true nature of the issue, but they've been hurt as well. So there's no, it's not just one person's fault, but we have to change that. We got to get out of this mentality that's been brainwashed into us. And the bottom line really is, when you look at this, the bottom line really is that males need to be masculine. And males need to be that way. And of course, we like feminine women as well. But the other part of this is males need to be masculine. And how you do that is through a habit. You build a habit of being somebody who's strong. You build a habit of somebody who really wants to, be that leader, and not someone who's just going to be in the background. You want somebody who's going to kind of take control and leadership. Now, there's times, of course, you're going to defer that leadership. You can do that. A strong male does that. There's times where you can let other people make choices, and of course you want them to give input. But the idea, guys, is that you're not just somebody who is a desperate, thirsty male looking for females and willing to do anything the female wants, because that's not going to show respect, and that's not going to give respect. And all of a sudden you're going to have a person who's just using you, and they don't really want you. They don't want you the way that people want you when you have retention. You can just see it in people's eyes. They look at you a certain way. They definitely are attracted to you. They're definitely focused. You're focused. You're focused on achieving things. Your health is great. You're working out. You're looking better than you've ever looked before. All these kind of things come to play because you're doing retention and you're staying on your game. And so why would you ever want to lose that? This is where I'm finally coming to the realization after 800 and some days, right? 860, something like that. That the idea is that why in the heck would you want to ever lose this? Unless you're going to have some kind of child and present something in the life that God, in the world that God has wanted you to do. So in many regards, as you do this longer, and I think some of you guys are on long streaks, and keep it going, my friends, keep it going, that you're going to realize that, this is something that, why would I ever go back? Because you built a habit. And so again, going back to what somebody said, the idea is that you want to build habits. Now it takes 21 days to build a habit. So what we have to do is continue to work on semen retention, no FAP, monk mode, all these type of things that you should be doing for 21 days. You also need to build habits like working out. I do a lot of walking with the big dogs, and I walk and I also lift when I can. I lift smaller weights, do a lot of repetition because I want to build that muscle. I don't care about mass anymore. When I was playing football, I wanted mass more, but not anymore. And so I work out more because of that. And then obviously your diet. I've not been good on a diet the last few days, too much sugar. But, something that I recognize, and that's one of my battles to go through. Things like tithing, all these type of battles we go through. I'm working on a bunch of things myself. But I do know that I feel unbelievable. And I will always say that until the day I pass away, that this is the best thing that ever happened to me. Besides my wife and family, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. And going to the Lord closer and closer to the point where I am now a different person than I was 860 days ago. And certainly I think the beard is something that I would have never done a long time ago. And that's just kind of a small symbol, of course, but it still represents something, right? It represents the fact that you are trying to kind of get out of a mode that you're in of somebody who just is kind of stuck into what society wants you to be. And there's thousands of people who never understand this. And they never understand how this works. And so what you have to do is kind of think to yourself, okay, I've seen this, but what are some other things? I think now we're beginning to realize that the media, the social media, the media is most of the time not accurate. And now it's kind of the opposite. There's so much more propaganda out there in all things. So we're beginning to understand this, and I think that we have to thank the last couple of years and situations like this to be able to say that the world is not what it appears to be. And when you see that, and then you're trying to kind of say, okay, what is the real answer? Well, the real answer goes back to biblical types of things. It goes back to you and your relationship with God. And so I had a good conversation yesterday about this as well. And it's not necessarily the works, because they tell us that in the Bible as well. But the idea is that your relationship with God, and God will tell you. And I think enthusiasm, for instance, is a good word. Enthusiasm in Greek means God in you. And so I believe God is in us, and God wants us to succeed and use our body as a temple. And as we use our body as a temple, we're going to use it for masculine things and being a male, being someone who is strong. Guys, as I said this the other day, I mean, if you lose that, you are losing just because of the physical nature of things. You're opening yourself up for conquest, a country to fall apart, if you don't have enough males willing to stand up. And when you have all these weak males who think that, well, they're being the right way because this is what women want, this is all a fallacy. This whole thing about putting princesses up there and just catering to it, that's a big fallacy that I fell for years. There's nothing wrong with doing things nice for your partner, your girlfriend. That's a different thing. But we're talking about now not being able to say no to people, which is I had that problem years ago, and not being able to walk away from the table like in negotiations. I couldn't do that years ago. All those things are different because of this. Because now you're strong and you're not afraid of things, right? I used to have a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear in things. I don't have that anymore. Because God has put His self, make me realize that retention, you keep in your nutrients, you're keeping your strength, you're not just kind of dispersing it anywhere for any reason, and you become a lot stronger of a person. And that's when your testosterone raises. That's when all of a sudden you become a strong male. Now, men respect, women love and respect because they see this in you. And I see this with women of all ages. We were at dinner last night and I had a waitress, must have been in her 60s, 50s. She recognized it, right? It's a reaction that they have. They want to touch you. They want to understand. And it's not me. So don't get this wrong, my friends. This is not me. It is the energy that I have. This is it. And that energy comes from that retention. And I just know a big difference 860 days ago when I started doing this as a habit, and you're forming a habit, all of a sudden people react to it. I don't care how old the person is. You have little children, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, staring at you because they sense it. You may look at yourself and say, okay, you're just a person walking around. But there's an energy force around you. These chakras are around you, are inside of you. They're portraying an aura around you. Now you don't see that, and once again, I think most of what happens in this world we don't see, and we don't really understand that, most of us. But the idea then is that you are emitting a aura, an energy force, a field around you, and these other people pick it up. Now, I don't know how they do that because I don't know the intricacies. I mean, I know physics a little bit, but I don't know to the point of how that actually works and how you're able to read those type of things. But people sense the energy, and they're sensing that you have that energy still inside you. Now, once again, it used to be more common back in the old days, but you don't see it now. You see actually the opposite of it. And so to see a man and a woman. Now, I know we had one person ask me about women, and I talk about women in my earlier videos a lot. I don't do it because I have most of the people that are 99% of them are males. So I don't talk about it all that much. But yes, males and females can practice retention. There's no doubt about it. But the thing is that I'm just talking about males because males seem to have a huger problem with this than females, especially pornography and things like that. And so the idea that you're trying to get that energy, people sense that energy. They look at that and they know that it's something that they want. And I go back to this whole thing is that people are looking to attach to energy. That's my viewpoint on this. And so as they go through life, they're attaching to energy, and they're looking at you saying, wow, this person's got a huge amount of energy. How do I get close to that person? How do I actually work it? And once again, guys, if you're having sex and you're procreating with people, you are transferring energy, in my opinion, to other people. So great comment from my man, Somebody. Thank you, Somebody, for your comment. Shout out to you. And I'll kind of give more thanks out to people as I accumulate names over the weekend of people who've sent things in. God bless you guys a lot. Have a great continuing weekend. I'll see if I can try to do one tomorrow. If I can't, then we'll do one on Monday. God bless you guys. Keep the battle going, my friends. And don't always remember that every day is a new day to a wise warrior. God bless you guys. Take care.